In a world where global alliances shape the destiny of nations, one move can send shockwaves across continents. Donald Trump, never one to back down, has done it again, this time with a thunderous 50% tariff on Brazil. But this isn't just an economic headline. No, this is a warning, a declaration, a strike, not just on Brazil, but on something far bigger. So the question stands, is this a policy move or a power play? And more importantly, in a world divided by strength and strategy, where do you stand when the world picks sides? When Donald Trump imposed a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods, he didn't just adjust a trade policy. He sent a signal to the world. This was not about economics alone. It was about leverage, dominance, and warning shots fired in the direction of any rising bloc that dares to challenge America's position. Trump has always believed in striking first and striking hard, and that's exactly what this move is. A full-volume message echoing across the global arena that says, we are still the heavyweight, and we don't plan on losing that title anytime soon. Brazil was not chosen by accident. As a key member of BRICS, it has been vocal about reducing dependence on Western-dominated systems, whether it be financial institutions, trade routes, or geopolitical influence. In recent years, BRICS has pushed forward with talks of creating its own currency, reducing reliance on the US dollar, and building an independent economic structure. That's a direct challenge to Washington, and Trump, he doesn't let challenges go unanswered. By hitting Brazil with such a massive tariff, he has drawn a line that says, if you side with them, you deal with us. It's not just about beef or steel. It's about loyalty, alignment, and long-term global strategy. Every trade deal has a shadow of diplomacy behind it. And in this case, Trump has used that shadow as a weapon, turning economic cooperation into a calculated strike. And in truth, this isn't new for Trump. He did it with China. He did it with Mexico. He even threatened allies when he felt America wasn't getting a fair deal. His style is not built on handshakes. It's built on hard choices. It's built on force, on friction, and on fear. Some call it reckless, others call it smart. But one thing is undeniable. It gets the world's attention. Now Brazil finds itself at a crossroads. But this isn't just about Brazil. It's about the message sent to every BRICS nation watching from the sidelines. If Brazil is the first target, who's next? The strength of BRICS lies in unity. But pressure, especially economic pressure, is a tool often used to divide. Trump knows this, and he's betting on the fact that not every member will be willing to pay the price of resistance. This moment is bigger than trade. It's about global chess. And Trump just moved his queen across the board, bold, direct, and unapologetic. Whether you agree with him or not, his actions demand attention. They force reaction. They stir debate. And above all, they remind every nation that in the new world we live in, silence isn't safe and neutrality isn't free. When power speaks, the world listens. And Trump, once again, has spoken loud and clear. Brazil is now grappling with an economic tremor that may leave scars for years to come. A 50% tariff from the world's largest economy is not a small jab. It's a full-force punch aimed at the very heart of Brazil's trade structure. This decision didn't just rattle financial markets. It sent panic through Brazil's core industries. Farmers, manufacturers, exporters, everyone who once relied on the steady rhythm of U.S. trade is now faced with uncertainty, disruption, and the possibility of collapse in once thriving sectors. Picture this: Brazilian agricultural producers who once shipped millions of tons of soybeans, beef, and sugar to American ports are now watching those deals crumble. Their warehouses are full, their buyers are gone. They invested years into building these trade relationships, and in a single political maneuver, it's been wiped away. And it doesn't stop at agriculture. Brazil's steel industry, another giant, will now face intense pricing pressure, making it harder to compete globally and devastating the domestic supply chain. This is what economic warfare looks like. It's not fought with missiles. It's fought with tariffs, trade walls, and the cold precision of financial pressure. And in this case, Brazil is under siege. But within that pressure lies a test of endurance, of strategy, and of national will. Will Brazil adapt, resist, and rise? Or will it retreat, appease, and realign? And here's the deeper truth. This isn't just a national struggle, it's a personal mirror. Because every single individual, every dreamer, every entrepreneur, every fighter goes through a version of this in their own life. The moment when a door closes, not because you did something wrong, but because someone more powerful decided you were a threat. You lose the opportunity. You lose the support. Suddenly, the comfortable path vanishes, and all that's left is your will to survive. This is Brazil's moment. A storm has been thrown its way, and now the world watches. Will it bend or will it build? And the lesson for all of us is this. When the systems you trusted turn against you, you don't quit. You innovate. You create new paths. You discover strength you never knew you had. Pressure doesn't mean failure. Pressure means you matter. That's why you're being tested. That's why you're being hit. Because you've become visible, significant, and that is never something to mourn. It's something to rise from. For Brazil, this could be a crisis, or the beginning of transformation. For you, it could be a failure, or the start of greatness. Because in the end, those who survive are not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who got up when the world tried to push them down. The move against Brazil was a calculated warning. But the real audience isn't just São Paulo or Brasilia. It's the entire BRICS alliance. Trump's 50% tariff is a megaphone pointed directly at the BRICS table, echoing a message that's hard to miss. We see you. And we're not backing down. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa has been quietly growing in confidence, in cooperation, and in global ambition. They've been talking about alternative currencies, independent trade networks, and challenging the dominance of Western-led financial systems. But America just reminded the world that the current king doesn't step down without a fight. What Trump has done is disrupt the illusion that BRICS could rise smoothly, without resistance. The tariff is the first visible crack of tension, an economic missile designed not just to hurt Brazil, but to shake the foundation of BRICS unity. Divide and conquer, isolate the weakest link, make an example. It's an old strategy, but still effective. And in this case, Brazil was chosen as the first test. China is watching closely. Russia, already sanctioned and strained, is analyzing the implications. India, often walking a tightrope between East and West, must now consider the cost of association. South Africa, with its fragile economy, might be wondering if they can afford to be part of the storm that's forming. The brilliance of this move lies not just in its force, but in its psychological impact. It creates fear, doubt, internal pressure. And if BRICS begins to hesitate even a little, Trump's mission will have succeeded. But here lies the deeper truth. Bold moves attract bold responses. History has never changed because one empire made a threat. It changes when others stand up to it. This is not just about Brazil standing firm. It's about whether BRICS will rise together or fall apart alone. That's the defining question. Will fear weaken the alliance, or will it strengthen their resolve? This same pattern happens in life too. When you're trying to grow, whether it's your business, your identity, your freedom, you will be tested. People will question your alliances. They'll challenge your commitment. They'll try to break you by hitting your weakest point. And sometimes they'll win if you're not united with yourself, your purpose, or your tribe. Unity under pressure is the rarest form of strength. It's easy to talk about brotherhood when skies are clear, but when the storm comes, that's when real alliances are proven. The question now is simple. Will BRICS fracture, or will they become fire-forged? Will Brazil be the beginning of the end, or the spark that rallies the rest? In this moment, history is not just being watched, it's being written, not just by governments, but by those bold enough to defy the pressure. And if BRICS can endure this blow, they won't just survive the future, they'll help define it. Brazil is now standing at a point in history that demands more than diplomacy. It demands clarity, conviction, and courage. The 50% tariff imposed by the US didn't come gently. It came like a tidal wave, crashing into Brazil's trade ecosystem, flooding its economy with panic and uncertainty. But here's the question that echoes louder than any political statement. What will Brazil do now? This is no longer a matter of paperwork and policy. This is a test of national will, because when the storm hits, you don't ask who's to blame. You ask who's ready to face it. Brazil must now decide between two roads. One leads to submission, quietly stepping back from BRICS, bowing to U.S. pressure, and trying to restore trade ties by compromising its position. The other, it's much harder. It means standing firm, bearing the short-term pain, and signaling to the world that Brazil will not be bullied out of its chosen path. And this is where true leadership is forged. Because leadership is not smiling at the world when things are easy. It's choosing your values when the pressure becomes unbearable. It's telling your people we might suffer for a moment, but we'll build something greater that no one can take from us. The easy path often feels safe, but safety is a silent killer of independence. The bold path is painful, but pain is often the beginning of transformation. Economically, Brazil will be tempted to play the middle ground. Quietly negotiate behind closed doors. Apologize for BRICS ambitions, offer trade compromises. But history doesn't favor those who back down. It remembers those who stood for something, even when they stood alone. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Brazil has faced storms. It has endured hyperinflation, political instability, corruption scandals, global recessions. And every time it rose back bruised but not broken. That same resilience lives in its people today, but now it must also rise in its policies, its global vision, and its refusal to be anyone's pawn. In truth, every great nation has a defining moment, one that demands a choice, not of economics, but of identity. This is Brazil's moment, and what it chooses will not only affect its future, it will echo across BRICS and inspire or caution every other emerging power. So ask yourself, when you're hit, do you fold or do you fight? When you're pushed, do you retreat or rise? Because sometimes the hardest moment of your life is simply life's way of asking, are you ready to level up? Brazil has been struck, but it hasn't been silenced. And if it finds its courage now, it won't just recover, it will lead. Not just within BRICS, but as a symbol that strength doesn't always come from wealth or weapons. Sometimes it comes from choosing the hard road and walking it with your head held high. What's happening between the US and Brazil is more than a dispute over trade. It's a warning to the world. Trump's 50% tariff is a loud, deliberate act that sends a signal beyond economics. It's a wake-up call, a reminder that global politics is shifting fast, and the age of quiet diplomacy is fading. In its place is a new era, one where strength is loud, alliances are tested, and only those who adapt will survive. This isn't just Brazil's story. It's a mirror for every nation, every leader, every rising power that dreams of breaking free from the grip of older empires. The message is clear. The moment you try to build something of your own, the moment you stop playing by their rules, they will come for you. They'll come with tariffs, sanctions, isolation, and pressure, not because you're weak, but because your strength has started to matter. And in this moment, every nation still hiding behind neutrality needs to understand something vital. There is no more neutral ground, not in this new world. If you're not making your own path, you're walking someone else's. If you're not writing your own future, someone else is holding the pen. Silence is no longer safe. Playing both sides is no longer clever. You either step forward with conviction or get pulled backward by the tide. For developing nations watching Brazil's struggle, this is a lesson in preparation. The question is not, will this happen to us? The question is, are we ready when it does? Because once you rise high enough to be noticed, the spotlight becomes a target. And in that moment, it won't be your wealth or your population that saves you. It will be your unity, your resilience, and your refusal to bend. For individuals, the story is the same. Whether you're building a business, fighting for your beliefs, or chasing a dream, understand that pressure is proof that you're making waves. People only try to stop what they fear, and when you feel the world pushing back, it means you've started pushing forward. So don't see resistance as a sign to stop. See it as confirmation that you've stepped into your purpose. This global conflict is more than policy. It's a signal that the world is dividing into those who will shape the future and those who will get shaped by it. BRICS wants to shape it. The US wants to protect its dominance. And the rest of the world must now decide, will you watch history or will you write it? In a time where boldness is punished, being brave becomes revolutionary. So whether you're a nation on the rise or a person with a vision, remember, the only thing more dangerous than taking a stand is staying silent. Because in this new era of global power, only the bold will survive and only the relentless will lead. This was never just about tariffs. It was about power, pressure, and principle. And to you watching right now, remember this. History doesn't remember those who stayed silent. It remembers those who stood up. Don't just watch the world change. Be the reason it does.